Good morning, everybody. Is everybody able to hear me? And is everybody able to, perfect. And is everyone able to see my screen? Wonderful. Okay. Well, welcome everyone. Oh, I just need to do my camera. There we go. Okay. Hope everyone is doing well on this a little bit of a dreary day here in Ontario. And yeah, we are in November. We are actually, what is the date today? The 26th, 27th. We are now less than 1 month away from Christmas. So we are definitely into the holiday season. And I want to thank you for taking your time out of your day and joining me here. So this month's webinar is kind of a little bit different and it's kind of cross-departmental. Let me fix this, make sure that's not blocking me. And actually, before I get too far, let me just make sure. I think it's recording. Let's hope. All right. For those of you that are new to Pro Ergonomics, we are an ergonomics consulting firm. We do safety, we do training, but our goal is obviously to kind of focus a little bit on the ergonomics as a specialty. We pride ourselves on the fact that we constantly work with our clients to try and make sure that we are kind of meeting their standard, right? Obviously, we work all with a variety of different people at a variety of different stages in their ergonomics program or their safety plan. And it's important not to rush people, right? We need to make sure we're meeting the needs because although you, as maybe the holder of this portfolio, may be all on board and wanting to cannonball into the, ergonomic pool, we look for a more holistic approach here at Pro Ergonomics, and sometimes we need to go with some baby steps in order to make sure everybody else in the organization is kind of with us and supporting us. And that's kind of what we're talking about today. So when we kind of look at today's topic, we're again going back to that program sustainability. It is something that I feel quite strongly about. I'm very passionate about it. It is something that I think allows your job to become a little bit easier, makes you a little bit more effective in your role, but it also allows you to leave a legacy. And that sounds like a big thing, but let me clarify. So often when we are working with clients, and we can be working with clients for, well, some of them are decades now, not that I'm trying to age myself, but over 2 decades I've been working with some of my clients, and I love that. I love that I've had them in my life for this long. However, at some point retirement happens, we move on to other organizations. That doesn't usually impact me so much. I kind of have a tendency to travel with my clients, but it's not to say that necessarily the person who fills their shoes is going to be well able to fill those shoes. And I see the program take a huge slide back. And it's a little bit heartbreaking. And so what I like to try and do is create a program that will live on beyond you. And oh, that sounds a little bit dark. We want to create something that is just going to be so effective that someone who's new in the role can pick it up. Someone who's moving up underneath you can easily kind of slide in and just pick things up from where you left off and keep that safety culture, that, well-being culture that ergonomics really brings. Ergonomics is something that doesn't necessarily just get based in safety. We get to kind of spread into efficiency with our engineering crew. We definitely get to spread into kind of HR and wellness because everything we do really is for the employee and trying to improve their just comfort and well-being. So it's a nice thing to be able to just pick up and run with it. And so that's kind of what we're looking for today, is kind of how can we take all of the ergonomic documentation and potentially other department documentation and kind of create this program Yes, it's going to be your safety program or your ergonomics program or your HR program, but it also could just be, an organizational program, depending on where you are, what your systems look like and your processes and your documentational needs. So without further ado, let's kind of talk about what our deliverables are going to be today. So first off, we kind of are going to be talking about what I like to call our safety bundle. And it allows for multiple pieces of documentation to kind of be housed and done or completed all at the same time so that when you need it, it's there, right? We know the kind of negative side of kind of our safety and our return to work is when things start to go a little bit south, we need that documentation kind of quickly because the pieces are fast moving. And it's so much better if we just know where to go. It's already done, and we can kind of put the balls in motion that need to be in order to keep things easy, flowing, keeping people back at work, not just necessarily back to work, but keeping them at work, and kind of appeasing the WSIB and the safety personalities that kind of come along with, injury and unsafe acts. So we'll be looking at that. What does that creating that hub look like? Then we'll be looking at some of the documentation. We'll be talking about the importance of consistency and cost effectiveness. All right. So, all right. So first off is, this is why a safety bundle. Why should we have one? And I kind of have already alluded to that fact. We want to stop kind of running on the hamster wheel. We want to be able to say when someone asks for something, we know A, that it's done. We know B, where to find it. So I think this week alone, I've had 2 clients email me and say, Alex, I know you've sent this report. I can't find it. Can you send it again? Right? Which is fine and dandy. However, the drawback on relying on me, and I don't want to say you can't rely on me because obviously you can, but both of those times I was out with a client. So they didn't get it immediately. It's great when I'm sitting at my computer and those emails come in and I can just fire that off and you are not delayed or put out at all. But that was not the case in either one of these instances. And so I didn't actually get back to them till the next day, which, in the grand scheme of things, isn't necessarily maybe a big deal, but wouldn't have been easier and better to just be able to check that off your to-do list and put that down and move on to something else. And so I really see just being able to get hands on the things that you need makes your life just so much easier. I know it does mine. And so these safety bundles that we're going to be talking about, although they are a lot of work up front, I'm not gonna lie, as someone who creates them for my clients, they are definitely, there's a lot of detail and a lot of consideration that goes into them. However, once they are done, the fact that you kind of have this one-stop shop is just satisfying. It's just very satisfying. And so back in October, with the webinar that we did there, we started talking about programs. And it's been a theme. I think if you were with Jen last month, we were talking about a sustainable office ergonomics program. And the month before, we were kind of more grand and we were talking about, just having a sustainable program as a whole and what did we need. And I asked, what would that mean to you? What does that look like? What words would you use to describe your ideal program? And I'm just saying program right now. I mean, I want to say ergonomics program because again, that's kind of my passion, but it could be anything. It could be your HR program. It could be your safety program. It could be your processes and engineering program. It could be anything, or it could be a hybrid of all of them. Anyways, the point is your responses were resoundingly similar. Like it was quite astonishing how so many of you were really looking for the exact same things. And the answers were, you wanted it to be easy. And who doesn't, right? You wanted it to be efficient, something that was going to not just Yes, I can find it easily, but I can actually save time. And agreed, 100%. The other thing was you wanted it cheap. So I'm not sure I can promise cheap, but I can definitely promise a lower cost when we start thinking in terms of this. So I agree 100%. I typically say 1,000%, and my husband says, that's mathematically impossible. You need to stop saying that, and I just can't. So there you go, a little foray into the mind of Alex Stinson. So easy, efficient, and low cost. And as I said, almost all of you put either one or all three. So how can we keep things easy? One of the things we see a lot of the time is just having multiple files and multiple formats, right? And depending on how you're using them depends on, where your limitations are. So often we will send our files in a PDF. And what we find is that actually is not that easy for you. It's not bad because yes, you can distribute it and make sure the formatting and everything looks the same and you have the same assurances that I do when I send it out. However, manipulating the data within those documents now becomes hard, right? It's copy and paste. It's just an ordeal. We may, so keeping your files all in the same format, but still allowing you the ability to access that data, pull it out, move it somewhere else, extrapolate it, do data runs on it. When we're looking at having to provide reports to our senior management, it just becomes so much easier. So without knowing, I know we have a very large cross section of industries and sectors with us today, everywhere from, school boards to long-term care to industry and, colleges and municipalities. And so although your programs are going to look different depending on your sector, I think the similarities based on, this slide right here, of the fact that you are still wanting the same things still holds true. So yes, we want to keep them all in the same format so that we can use the data that we've created. We want them easy to find. Okay, so what your central hub or your safety bundle does is it puts them all together in one file. And similarly to my emails this week, is it prevents us from putting the file somewhere where we wouldn't likely know or remember where it was. And so that lost file situation becomes just a little less because it is part of your program. So yes, obviously you could still save it somewhere and not remember, but when everything is kind of in the same spot, the need to have multiple file folders becomes a bit redundant and you don't need to do that anymore. And so having it all together allows you to just kind of have, your maybe a documentation file, whatever it is you want to save it as, but it's, it's all there. So it's always going to be saved there. So you really reduce those chances. The other thing that actually I forgot to put up here is it creates a standardization, right? Again, even though I've been doing this for over 25 years, I will still get documents. I will get PDAs that I'm like, whoa, okay, I thought I saw it all. I have not. This is unique. Give me a second. And I have to sit there and I have to read through it and kind of discern what they were trying to capture and how to use it and where it goes. And am I going to be able to apply it for whatever, whether it be my risk assessments or my return to work or the other kind of subsidiary programs that I kind of want it to feed into, and it becomes challenging. And as I said, I work with hundreds of clients, maybe thousands, and I've seen all kinds, and it still takes me, even though, I think I get a little bit cocky every now and then, thinking I've seen it all. Nope. Every now and then I get something, I'm like, okay, all right, how am I supposed to use this? So if I'm experienced that, and I've experienced so much diversity, then you guys who are managing your programs and maybe are walking into documentation, or you have, documentation that you have 7 different files in 7 different formats and 7 different templates, or you have 10 jobs, each of them has, let's say, a PDA, each template is different. That makes your job hard, right? Having a standardized template allows you the ability to easily find data. And that is highly important because it brings with it confidence, right? If you know, oh, I'm looking for strength. Yep, I know exactly where it is. Give me 2 seconds. Yep, we're looking at this frequency, this weight, this object. That's a lot of data that you are giving in seconds rather than going, oh, okay, hold on. Okay, this template's a little bit different from the last one I was working on. Okay, I see the strength section. What is this one saying? I don't know. Right? That immediately makes you feel and sound less confident with the data that you're trying to describe and you're trying to back. And whether that's an internal meeting that you're having, whether it's a discussion with WSIB, or whether it's with an external partner, that's not what we want for our program. A, it's not easy, and B, it's kind of eroding something that could be better. So that is probably my fourth one. I will try to make sure I keep that in mind. So what does this look like? First off, for us, and it does not need to look like this for you, but we use Excel. Excel is a really nice kind of package for a couple reasons. A, it has tabs, and you'll see them in a second, how we use those tabs to kind of build all of those documents into one. B, the data is easily exported. So we can export that information into a database. We can do queries on it. We can run pie charts and all kinds of different things on it. It becomes super manipulable. Is that a word? Manipulable? Probably not, but we can manipulate it. So we do like using Excel, and you will just get the Excel file and it will, as I said, have all your tabs kind of underneath. The other thing that's nice is I have, gosh, I can't even count how many clients that we do these safety bundles for, and each one of them looks different, right? I have a long-term care that they have a tab on, kind of basically like checklists that they need to go through to make sure that they have everything they want, that they're using the right kind of work method, all of these things. I have clients that have put in their job descriptions. I have clients that have worked in some of their engineering kind of, now this would be maybe more industry related, but they put in their Kaizen assessments or their Pokeokes, and that's a tab in there as well. So it allows you really to expand and create exactly what you need. Okay. And it is going to be different for each of you. We're going to be talking about some similar ones. So we're not going to go the full span of what your safety bundle will look like, but just know that it can be whatever you want it to be. However, what I encourage you to do is, if you're trying to create a one-stop shop and trying to create maybe a little bit more transparency where you know what the left hand and the right hand are doing, then this also can be, all of these tabs that we're sharing can be a bridge between multi-departments. So we will often see HR and safety. Yes, that maybe is a little bit easier because sometimes they're often run under the same umbrella head. So they will often share their safety bundle. As I said, we will have training initiatives in there. We will have job descriptions in there. But the ones that I get really excited are the ones where they've kind of brought in maybe some of their operations stuff, where maybe they have pre-start checks in there, or they have engineering components in there. And so each one has kind of an element to just all be in the same place. Now, I understand that this maybe becomes a little bit convoluted with ownership, but that's the kind of, you just need to think of that as logistics. It's not to say you can't do this. Whether we build it out to multidisciplinaries or multi-departments is entirely up to you, but the opportunity is there. And it is something that I have found, the bigger my organization is, the more they like this safety bundle concept, because they're not having to wait. As I said, it builds transparency. I know what engineering is doing because I can see it going into my safety bundle. I know what's happening with, my implementations on my safety side because it's going into my bundle. So that's kind of what it looks like. So when we're talking about what the documentations are, so we would have, let's say, a tab for your physical demands analysis or assessment. Also, could also have an additional tab for your cognitive demands assessment. We have, as I said, a lot of healthcare, municipality, and school boards. Often it's the cognitive side of things that you are heavily interested in. And so that would be another tab that you could have, because you don't necessarily need to be sending both at all times. Right? If your issue is physical, you would send the physical. If your issue is cognitive, you would send the cognitive. You don't necessarily always need to send both. And so it allows you to also control who's getting what. Then we have kind of your ergonomic risk assessment. Again, another way we can kind of plop this in here, get our risk ratings, appease our safety inspectors that we are, yes, identifying our ergonomic hazards. Yes, we are identifying our risk ratings, and we are doing controls or recommendations within that. Now, one of the challenges we have as ergonomists is you could be sitting here going, yeah, well, Alex, ergonomics isn't the only hazard I have. What about all my other hazards? And you can see here, oops, not quite here. So you could also put your assessments in so that you can go back and easily gain those. So if we are looking at trying to prove to an MOL inspector that, yes, we did the assessment, this is the data we used, rather than being like, oh, I don't know, we had a consultant do it, I have no clue what they did. We provide that for you so that the Ministry of Labor ergonomists, the WSIB, whoever is needing to see these can show your due diligence and see the data that was used, because data changes, right? We may see process production rates increase. We may see jobs combine into one. And so this would allow you to not just have a timestamp, because obviously these all have timestamps on them as well, but we are able to kind of show what these risk ratings were at the time. Now, when it comes to ergonomics, we don't measure safety the same way as we measure ergonomics. And it comes mostly in the area of severity, right? Severity is typically a little bit lower. Our frequency is always higher. And so we usually end up having a hard time getting liftoff with higher risk ratings when it comes to ergonomics under the safety model. And so we use our own risk assessment guideline standards and tools, right? And for those of you that have been in this world a lot, we have our CSA guidelines for office ergonomics. We have our Liberty Mutual tables for manual material handling. We have HandPAC for any hand intense work. So all of these things, we have our own set of tools. So you'll find that this risk rating is very specific, as you can see here. These are all strength issues, and Liberty Mutual was used. We can show you those tables, as well as we could also look at the job hazard analysis component. So understanding that, yes, we're going to have maybe different assessment tools used for ergonomics, but that's not to say that that on its own isn't going to appease your occupational health and safety requirements, right? So you could be looking at your job hazard analysis, which goes through and looks at all of the critical tasks and all of the hazards, and provides a risk rating that you're probably very familiar with if you are in the safety realm, looking at your exposure, the occurrence, probability, and consequence scoring. So this is kind of just an example of one of our job hazard analysis, and it kind of goes through. The nice thing about having a job hazard analysis in here, and specifically in an Excel document. I mean, it could be a Word as well, but I do find it's just so much easier to go through and find things in the Excel. You would bring this up. One of the things I am constantly telling my clients when they have a job hazard analysis is that this is not a stationary document. This is not stagnant. It is not a moment in time. It is a living, breathing document that should constantly be evolving, specifically when we have these kind of red, yellow kind of ratings where we know we are in the moderate to high risk area. These controls over here that we have implemented, you could put recommended. I know some clients have asked us to put the recommended controls in there as well. However, I typically don't. That your recommended controls is your to-do list. This is what you have. So this becomes not only a due diligence component of your health and safety program, but it also becomes a training document. It becomes a great summary of what you are doing for safety for that specific job. So when you hire someone, again, hello, we're bringing HR in, HR can use this document to show that, these are the hazards you're going to be included on. These are some of the training under your implemented controls that you may need or will be getting as part of your role here. And it just becomes, from a bird's eye view, a really comprehensive overview of the job. And so all of a sudden we've taken a safety document, we will put in the ergonomic component in there, but we have HR using it. We will also maybe have engineering or facilities or maintenance or operations using it because they are going to kind of be making sure that things like our critical tasks are the same. Right? As we progress within the job role, we may find that we have new pieces of equipment. We take out steps and we put different steps in, and this should all be reflecting that. So that's kind of what I'm saying when I'm saying it's a living document. If you were in, so if you're in, let's say a municipality, right? You guys have lots of different, very, very different kind of areas. We have everywhere from recreation, you may have garbage disposal, you're going to have your office administration, you're going to have your community recs. And so it's not to say that each one has to have exactly the same tabs, but the format and the bundle itself is universal. So I may not have an office ergonomics tab on this role or in the critical tasks in my job hazard analysis because this is a maintenance role that's happening in a tool room. But it's not to say that I couldn't have an office tab in there as well. And you could put anything from your, checklist on how to set yourself up ergonomically to how to use the equipment appropriately, how to adjust your chair if you're providing adjustability like such as desks or sit stand units. That all information could all be put in the same kind of file. And I love that. I love that for, again, its transparency and its ease. This is something else that we'll often put in as kind of one of the tabs, and this is going to be your kind of progress report. Again, all in the same place. It's feeding off the other data you have. So I'm going to say these are my issues and these are where I'm scoring. So these are my, good, bad, and ugly scores. It also shows me who was responsible for it. It kind of keeps me on budget. I can show that I am exceeding or under budget with some of these things. And so this is where it comes easy. If I'm running to a meeting, I know exactly where to go. I have a tab that's always going to be updated and it's going to be kind of feeding itself. We have programs where these kind of cells automatically get integrated. They automatically feed in. It's a little bit more programming, but if you have someone within your organization that's good at that, or you partner with someone who knows how to do that, then all of a sudden you're building that really sustainable program that just, again, makes life easy. So we get our changed rating automatically. So we can see we had a red and a yellow, both of them are green, and even our red went to a yellow. So overall, we've improved the safety. And then lastly, it shows our progress. Where are we, right? When we are looking at trying to kind of in our joint health and safety committee meetings or continuous improvement meetings or even our staff meetings would show a little bit of transparency. This becomes a really nice visual to, put on your safety board or your communications board and just allow people to know, we haven't started this because they don't have the part in stock. we are almost done this one, we're halfway through this item, but it allows that transparency so that we don't kind of get the, oh, that, you know, the ergonomist came in months ago and we haven't seen anything come of it. Well, it's not to mean that you guys aren't doing something about it. It just means it takes time. And this, it allows you to kind of visually show that things are in the works, people. Patience is what's needed. So, as I said, this is customizable. So this is kind of one, you can see we have our job description in here, we have the PDA, we have the ERA, we have the job hazard analysis, and we have the progress report, as well as all of those assessments. So that is this one. And that, as I said, was kind of more for a tool room, kind of maintenance, maybe facilities type role. But we could easily have this another tab be a CDA. We could easily have another tab be an office assessment. So look at what it is you're needing to kind of give that holistic view. We're very much moving when we start seeing some of the conversations at the, you know, the CSA tables or kind of guidelines and standards, the groups that are coming and meeting together, trying to build guidance around how to have a successful program. The word that gets bandied about quite a bit is holistic. So we're trying to just meet that need. When we start seeing this, when we have that kind of system all in place, typically we find a couple things happen. First off, we get consistency, right? All our data is going to be speaking about the same time, the same process, the same environment. Typically when we do them, and this I'll touch again on when we start talking about cost, but I will go in and I do one data collection. I create multiple documents out of that data collection, but that data collection is all done at the same time. Again, when we are trying to navigate what is correct, what is incorrect, what is valid, what is invalid, what is current, what is past, there's confidence built in knowing that no, all of these documents were generated kind of at the same time. So again, the ones that we typically will bundle together is the PDA, the CDA, the JHA, so many acronyms, and the ERA, which is the Ergonomic Risk Assessment. So we know that all of that data was from February 2023. Oh, well, in June of 2023, we had some changes and we put some equipment in. Ideally, because these are editable documents, you could be making those updates yourself. If not, it still provides you with context and empowerment of information, knowing that, you know, this section here has changed a little bit, rather than going, okay, well, this one was done here. So I don't know, I wasn't here when that was done because that was 10 years ago. And no word of a lie, a lot of documents I see, last time they were done was 10 years ago. And this one, well, this one's gone a lot. We just haven't had a chance to update it. And I mean, it's not to say that you aren't going to have some of those conversations, but it's going to be holistic. Again, that word, holistic. You're going to be able to say, this whole bundle is in the works because all of the time and data was taken at the same time. We talked about the formatting being the same. You definitely, from our standpoint, it's so nice to know that when we are doing a safety bundle, that you are getting the same ergonomist. Unfortunately, sometimes when we get brought in to, let's say, do one document, let's say a PDA, and then, you know, a few months later, we're still having issues. You know what? I think we need to do an ergonomic assessment now because we're still having a lot of people go off, which is reasonable. The PDA doesn't change anything. It just tells you, you know, kind of the situation at the time. And someone else will go because they're the one who has the availability in the schedule, which means now if you have questions, you're like, oh, okay, well, I need to talk to Alex about this one and I need to talk to Jen about this one. And now that becomes harder, right? We want ease. The other thing that I love, again, I'm a bit of an efficiency freak. I love efficiency. I hate when things are just kind of just draining my time and energy. And so one of the things that we've found is that some of your auditing systems, some of your other programs that maybe work within a database that may be part of a more of a global system or a database, these documents can be easily fed into them. And that's what kind of excites me is that these, again, I'm not sitting there cutting and pasting from a PDF or a Word document. I can assign cells that will automatically, import into a database or other Excel, and it just becomes so much easier to manipulate data. And that I find exciting because I really love it when my clients take what I've kind of given them as a foundational piece and turn it into another program or something that's going to help them be more efficient or organized in another system, because it just breeds that kind of efficiency and consistency. And then lastly is it's lower cost. From our perspective, if you're using a partner to or a specialist to kind of help you gather these data kind of points and put these reports together, we do them all in the same day. Okay. I'm not creating extra days of travel. I can do them all on the same on-site visit. We're also not finding that we're having to waste time with redundant data. If I go in February, and even if you say, oh, now I need an ERA in June, I'm going to have to retake that data. So now a lot of my time is being spent just retaking same things but being used in a different way. So again, we get that redundant data collection. And even if you have someone in-house doing this, it's redundant to do them at separate times. We also get two different pictures, as we said earlier, right? Now, no longer is the PDA speaking to the ERA because they were done 5 months apart. We know that we're going to reduce our time looking for things. We're going to be able to find them easier. And when we need to generate reports or send them out to whether it be internal people or externals, we're going to be able to send everything out that we want. We could either send out the worksheet or we could send out the whole file, depending on the level of transparency you're wanting, right? Typically, I don't send my whole risk assessment over to WSIB when they're asking for a PDA. Sometimes that can go south. So if they're asking for a PDA, I can just send that worksheet. All right. So overall, what we're looking at, how do we do this? Okay. First off, I encourage you to meet with other departments and understand what some of their documentational needs. That will let you know how cross-sectional you can be, right? How much of a silo are we going to create, or are we going to be breaking silos down? And if you find that their documentation would easily be inputted into a tab on an Excel spreadsheet, then we know we're going to be able to kind of meet a similar need and really make a more robust safety bundle or information bundle if it's standing that far out of the safety realm. We all will be understanding kind of what information is frequently used, right? The documents that, maybe come up once a year. Yes, you could put it in here. I'm not saying you couldn't. But again, the purpose of this is really to easy, efficient, low cost. So we want to try and create tabs that are going to be the ones that we're constantly going to first and foremost. As I said, it's not to say you can't put the one-offs in there, but the ones you want to make sure are in there are just data that you're constantly going to, whether it be, again, for external reasons such as WSIB, Ministry of Labor, insurance, who knows, versus, internal progress, continuous improvement, that type of thing. We've already talked about, getting that standardized template, keeping our data consistent. When we talk about the legacy, this is where it really comes in, right? If I can step into your role and see every job has the exact same format, data, roughly within 1 or 2 tabs, everything is all right there. Well, I'm just hitting the road running. right? There's nothing stopping me from once I understand one job's documentational bundle, I understand what everyone else is. I'm not constantly having to learn to really pick up speed in this new role. And, as I said, as we have people move on or retire, this absolutely goes for you when you're in the role as well. But I don't want a program to flail and flounder when the person who's running it leaves. It's for me, it's heartbreaking. I come in and you just see we've just backslid and it's like, oh, yeah. But we can't work forever, nor do we want to. So keeping that standardized. Definitely, using specialists or partners that have, can do multiple documents. As I said, yes, ergonomics is our specialty, but I do a ton of job hazard analysis. I teach health and occupational health and safety at the college. I'm constantly training engineers. So although that is my passion and my specialty and my background, I have expanded out so that I can understand those other areas very easily and provide valuable input. But then we're going to keep it all together. We're just going to create that bundle that's going to make life just a little bit easier. All right, now one of the drawbacks I have here is I am not able to see the chat. So I will come back in a second. One of the things before, because we are running out, I will kind of go into the chat and see in a second. But while I'm doing that, if I could ask you, you'll probably be seeing it on our social media coming up in December. If any of you are following us on LinkedIn or Instagram, we have, we're not having a webinar next month. Next month is kind of crunch time for everybody, I think. And so we're just going to pause and we will reconvene in 2025. But I'd really like to know, what are you guys interested in? And be creative. Be creative, because sometimes I feel like we can't see the forest for the trees. We try and keep our thumb on the pulse, but how many cliches can I put into one sentence? But it's sometimes challenging for us to come up with new innovative ideas and be in line with what you are hoping to see. So if you could put in the chat any topics that you would like to see covered, again, you'll have an opportunity in our social media to kind of weigh in as well, but we're hoping to get some kind of really exciting, very relevant to you topics going in for the new year. All right, so I am going to go through the chat and see if there's any questions. In the meantime, as is our last webinar of 2024, I just want to say my sincerest thanks for always supporting us, always being here. And for some of you, we may not work with you just yet, hopefully, but we're always so appreciative of all the support that we get, whether it be attending our webinars, interacting with our social media, or inviting us into your organization to help with things like safety bundles and creating all the documents that we know we need. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing just so that I can see the chat if there is any. And there's not, so that's okay. Perfect. So, everyone, I didn't realize I was literally a floating head. I hope you guys all have a great holiday season, and yeah, we will see you back in 2025. This year flew. Take care, stay safe. Thanks, Aline.